Hey, okay, so update number 2, intro video, the American presidency. So indeed, Trump did come up a bit short in November, right? Although he came agonizingly close. He lost just a small number of key states by an incredibly small number of votes. But, you know, there you have it. He made it closer than a lot of people thought it would be. Not in terms of the national popular vote, right? There he lost by like 7 million plus, but in terms of the Electoral College. All right, so on to the next president, right? Joe Biden. I think one of the current events articles I gave you guys talks about this, so that'll be useful. Think about it as the, what do they call it, the American model or something? So what do we see so far? Early days of the Biden presidency. He's much less, the term I think that is used these days is performative, right? He's much less performative than Donald Trump was. For Donald Trump, the performance was the presidency, right? His tweets, his news conferences, press conferences, shit he would say. To him, that's what it means to be president, to perform on a public stage and say dramatic things. And, you know, there's something to be said, of course, right, for the rhetorical presidency. Ronald Reagan was a master at it, right, the great communicator. But Reagan also, you know, made sure that the details were taken care of as well. He had a real interest in governing, not just performing. So I would say that the Trump presidency reflected a strong emphasis on being performative and less focus on the substance of governing. That's a style, right? Each president has their own style. And that carried with it certain benefits and certain disbenefits, like any president. So Biden, way less performative. Right? We don't hear much from him. He's pretty quiet. He's a pretty quiet guy, pretty low-key. Pretty old, to be perfectly honest. Probably not at the peak of his powers, but you would say that he's very focused on the details of governance, much less on public performance. It's a different style, right? And if you value low-key competence in governing, Biden is going to seem like a fresh breeze. If you think the president should mostly be performative and dramatic, you'll find the Biden presidency very disappointing. And we know, right, that so far Biden has had some legislative success in pushing through that big stimulus program, $1.9 trillion. He's currently working on an infrastructure bill of a similar number. We'll see where that goes. Right? Any president is going to have some successes and some failures in working with Congress. Although that typically determines the success of any presidency is how effective were they at working with Congress to get things done. And by that measure, right, the Trump presidency you would deem to be relatively unsuccessful. He basically pushed through a big tax cut for the wealthy that also had some benefits for the middle class. And he signed off on a federal law that enacted minor reforms of our criminal justice system. That's probably his two big legislative successes. One genuinely big, the tax cuts. The other one relatively minor, but still, you know. Other than that, that was the limit of what Trump could get pushed through Congress. And I'm not sure how much he pushed the criminal justice bill through Congress. He did work hard on the tax cuts. So Biden obviously, right, worked hard on the infrastructure bill. He's working hard on the stimulus bill, and he's now working hard on the infrastructure bill. We'll see. I think what he's proposing can get done, but I don't think it can get done at that number of 1.9 trillion. And I'm not sure he can get the tax increases on corporate income taxes that he's looking for. At least not all of what he wants. So I think he's going to need to make some deals with Republicans to get something through on that. We'll see. We'll see. Also depends, right? Will Senator Joe Manchin be willing to do budget reconciliation to push through a bigger package? or will Manchin demand that you do it through the normal processes and get 60 votes, i.e. 10 Republicans? Manchin seems to be sort of hedging his bets on that. I'm unclear exactly where he stands. He's pushing for the 60 vote threshold, but he seems willing to go 50 if that's what it takes, maybe. All right, so yeah, and then it's early days of the Biden presidency. There's a lot left yet to happen between now and the end of his first term. And then, we'll see, right, if he's capable of running for a second term. Given his age, I don't know, man. I'm going to be blunt. I'm skeptical that he'll be able to run for a second term, although he's talking about it. I think he's talking about it, right, because it does you no good to say once you're in your first term, I'm not running for a second term, right? Because right away then you become a lame duck president. Everybody knows you're only going to be around for a very limited period of time, and you lose leverage and political capital. So if I were to guess, I would say Biden is saying that, not because he really believes it, but because he doesn't want to become a lame duck president in his first year in office. He wants to say, I am running again in 2024. I don't know that he really is, but if he says that, right, that makes him a non-lame duck president, and it gives him more political capital and more leverage with Congress. So that'd be my educated guess on that one. Not running again, but he's going to pose as if he is to maintain as much power for as long as possible in his term in office. So I suspect he'll be a one-term president. And then that becomes fascinating, right, as to who the Democrats choose in that sort of a context. Is it Kamala Harris, his current vice president? Is it Pete Buttigieg, his Secretary of Transportation? Is it somebody else? Excuse me. All right. I've talked too long. I don't have that much to say, quite honestly. As you can see, I'm kind of rambling. Thanks, and see what you think about those ideas and arguments.